Hey everyone, and welcome to another installment in the Who Is series, where I take a deep dive into the lore and backstory of Mortal Kombat's characters. Before we get started, we're so close to 1,000 subs, so I'd really appreciate if you could drop a like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss another upload. Anyways, today we look at the wannabe Shao Kahn turned true threat, Reiko. Although Reiko first appears in the fourth installment of the franchise, he has been active for far longer than it appears in the games. For over tens of thousands of years, in fact. While we don't know much about his early years and upbringing, we do know that he is originally from Outworld, and was present during Onaga's reign. It does seem, however, that Reiko paid no mind to the Dragon King, and instead relied on the gods for his future. You see, at the beginning of the universe, when the one being was split into the realms, the Elder Gods thought it best to assign a god to each realm. Someone to watch over the life brought forth from the one being's body. While everything seemed to be going great, there was one Elder God that wasn't quite so fond of the other's approach, that being Shinnok. Being unhappy with the product that the Elder Gods created, he attempted to snuff out all life, something that others realized and acted quickly, causing an all-out war erupting in the heavens. It was so brutal it spilled out into the realms of the mortals. This was something that caught the eye of Reiko. Impressed by the sheer power of this deity and his capabilities, Reiko would end up aligning with Shinnok, as he thought that by doing this, he could be rewarded with godhood. Regardless of this thought, Shinnok fell to his fellow gods, ending his dream of extinction, and resulting in him being banished to the Netherrealm for an eternity. In the aftermath of the battle, many believed that Reiko had died in this fight. Unbeknownst to many, he had returned to Outworld, which was now in control by Shao Kahn, as around this time, Shao Kahn had poisoned Onaga, usurping his throne and seeking conquest across the realms. During Reiko's service under Shao Kahn, he was growing more and more obsessed with Shao's power, impressed by his brutal leadership and ability to create a powerful empire. So Reiko began to imitate the Emperor, modeling his own armor and fighting style off of him. Reiko's persistent admiration did eventually gain the attention of Shao Kahn, and intrigued by its potential, Reiko would be given the rank of general, where he sat amongst Shao's elites. While this time isn't perfectly clear, because Reiko first debuted in MK4, it could be possible that Reiko was involved in all invasions Shao had begun, such as Zatera, Veternus, and Adenia. But as I said, we don't know for sure. As Reiko continued to serve Shao, the more infatuated he became with his power, and Reiko at this point started to push himself, hoping to be noticed by the Emperor as a possible successor to his throne. However, this was definitely one-sided on Reiko's part, because Shao had faith in Mileena as his successor if he were to die. Now, this is where things get interesting. Mortal Kombat 4. Now, over the course of the first three games, Reiko is obviously absent from the story, as he didn't debut until later. But during this time, with both tournaments and the invasion of Earthrealm, unbeknownst to most, there was a more sinister force plotting in the shadows, being the fallen elder god Shinnok. While everyone was distracted, Shinnok began to plot his return with the help of Quan Chi. They formed the Brotherhood of Shadows, planning to attack all the realms and strike down those that stood against them. But they knew they couldn't do this task alone. This is when they enlisted fighters across realms, and that's when they offered Reiko a position at their side, an offer he felt a need to accept. But unfortunately, that seems to be the extent of this current alliance, due to the obscurity that the older games had with this story. Again, while not fully clear, it's believed that Reiko joined the Brotherhood, with Shao's blessing, and worked as a sort of double agent, being able to relay information to Shao when the Elder God would inevitably attack. Now, during this agreement, Reiko had grown a great distaste for Quan Chi. While we don't know the real reason behind this, it's not far-fetched that he would grow to distrust the Necromancer and his sly attitude. Regardless of this, he remains by Shinnok's side and participates in his plan for mass extinction across all realms. However, this battle was stopped before it could even start, as Shinnok had underestimated the power of Earthrealm's defender Liu Kang. So, Shinnok had fallen again, being cast back into exile. But what was Reiko doing during this? Well, it seems Reiko returned to Shao Kahn, staying true to his loyalty, and remaining infatuated by his power, making things very interesting for the following games. such as Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, in which Shao Kahn was seemingly killed and the seat of power was open. Unfortunately, Reiko is absent from the roster for both Deadly Alliance and Deception, bringing us to his final appearance in the original canon, Mortal Kombat Armageddon, in which Shao had returned, regained his throne and empire, but he had his eyes on the Pyramid of Argus. You see, Shao had learned of a Blaze, a fire elemental, with godlike power that could be absorbed to the victor. Knowing that this power was in reach, he could use it to merge the realms. He would begin to amass his armies, using Reiko to recruit new fighters, setting up his appearance in the conquest mode of Armageddon, in which the Edenian demigod, Taven, is on a quest to defeat his brother Dagon, and obtain the power of Blaze. This journey leads him to Outworld, where, while attempting to track Quan Chi, he would hit many roadblocks on his way of doing so. As he ventured deeper into Outworld, he would eventually cross paths with Reiko, who was impressed by his capabilities and took the chance to recruit him. But after Taven declining and learning about his mission to hunt down Quan Chi, he then is forced to battle one another, as Reiko had sworn an oath to Shao to protect his allies. So, they fight and Reiko is defeated. But it isn't entirely something he is sad about, somewhat wanting Taven to hunt Quan Chi down. Now after that, Reiko doesn't pop up till the Battle of Armageddon, where he's on the forces of darkness versus the forces of light. The battle seemed to be almost even on both sides. However, when the Pyramid of Argus rises, it turns into a free-for-all, with everyone rushing to be the one at the top. This includes Reiko, who unfortunately crosses paths with Shao Kahn, who effortlessly bashes him aside with his hammer. Reiko's fate is somewhat unknown, as we know everyone but Shao Kahn and Raiden die in this battle, but with his last interaction being with the Emperor, ironically, it could be believed that he was killed by the man he once idolized. This does move us over to the reboot, Mortal Kombat 9. As mentioned earlier, the end of Armageddon had only Shao Kahn and Raiden remaining, and Shao Kahn having absorbed Blaze's power, Raiden had no other options but to send a message to his past self, in hopes that this outcome would not become a reality. And so, the continuity is reset, and many deaths are undone. It is also worth mentioning that we are entering a new era of Mortal Kombat, where events unfold in significantly different ways than originally. Besides a brief cameo on the pit stage, Reiko is name-dropped during the second tournament, where he apparently fights Kenshi. However, the victor of this fight is unknown. Now this is where things get even more complicated. Mortal Kombat X. At the end of MK9, a few different events occur, with many of Earthrealm's defenders dying by a power-enhanced Sindel, and even Outworld's Emperor, Shao Kahn, dies at the end of the game. It is here where a civil war breaks out in Outworld, having Mileena and Kotal clash for the title of Khan. But what happened to Reiko? Well, this is where the MKX comic books come into play. And I want to clarify that these comic books are not canon. I did say in my Havoc video that they are. I was mistaken, and I apologize. While there are parts of the comic books that used in canon parts of the story, they are not considered fully canon. In fact, a few parts of the comic books are used, such as the Reiko Accords, a non-aggression pact between Outworld and Earthrealm, which was created at the end of the comic book series. The second is Shiva becoming queen, something we end up seeing in MK11. Now, in terms of specifics, there's sadly not many disclosed at this time. I can't truly say what is and isn't canon. However, this being said, I still find it important to retell the events so that you can get a full scope on Reiko's character. With that being said, during the MKX comics, we learned a few different things about Reiko, such as his time and service under Shao Kahn. One of the biggest differences in this canon is that in fact Reiko has no form of affiliation with Shinnok, and therefore is a more true loyalist to Shao Kahn. Now after his small army impressed Shao by wiping out the Kaitins and their kingdom, Reiko would be promoted to the role of general, standing by the Emperor's side as he came from realm to realm, conquering and subjugating its inhabitants, including the Kaitin. But things started to take a turn when desecrating a temple of the Koreans. He would hear a voice from the shadows. Whilst these voices weren't always present, whenever he would raid somewhere with Shao Kahn, he heard a phrase over and over: Reiko's blood reigns. He initially believed it to be his mind being lost in the heat of battle, but these chants were growing louder and louder. Eventually, Reiko concluded that it was fate guiding him to becoming Shao Kahn's successor, something he still yearned to become and would complete any assignment presented before him. This idea, however, quickly fell apart, as when Shao Kahn fell at the end of MK9, Reiko's dream no longer could be a reality, as Mileena had become Shao's successor. Reiko was struck with grief and depression he has never felt before, and on the verge of taking his own life. He heard a voice from the darkness once more, but this time this voice had a face, it being the Cleric of Chaos, Havoc. When Havoc found Reiko, he sensed the despair in his soul, the desire for power, and knowing he had potential, the Cleric of Chaos would utter the words, "Reiko's blood reigns," cutting him with a Kamidogu dagger. Now, it is worth saying that in the rebooted continuity, the Kamidogus are daggers and no longer amulets. They are tainted by the one being's blood and essence. This causes the Kamidogus to be tainted by powerful blood magic, referred to as the Blood Code, which bonds each victim cut by the blade to an incredible source of power. Once cut, Reiko realized the greater power at his fingertips, and that fate was once again on his side. Now believing his next step isn't to become Khan, but now to transcend godhood in a higher plane of existence. This being teased to him, he didn't need much convincing from Havoc. At first, the two would work together for Reiko to achieve godhood. In order to do this, they knew they would have to go behind enemy lines. Reiko could only truly ascend to becoming a blood god if he was simultaneously cut by all the Kamidogu daggers at once. However, each dagger was in the care of a powerful fighter, so they started plotting, such as orchestrating the kidnapping of Cassie and Jackie, the war between Outworld and Shokan Kingdom, and of course, the death of the Shirai Ryu, and in turn, Hanzo Hasashi. Reiko was really starting to build influence, as he even seduced the likes of Mileena to create a blood feud between Kotal and Goro. No one seemed to be safe from the general's deception. And after he obtained Earthrealm's dagger from Jax, he returned to his base at Shang Tsung's island. As he prepared his forces and himself for the blood ceremony, he knew it was inevitable before the special forces, Kotal, and Mileena caught up to them. However, unbeknownst to them, this is exactly what he wanted. He required powerful enemies to enslave under the Blood Code for Reiko's ascension, and that's why they kidnapped Cassie and Jackie, using them as bait to lure everyone in. And knowing of Mileena's bitter nature, she would inevitably turn up. At one point, in the battle, Reiko and his forces stood their ground at the island's beach, battling special forces in Kotal's army. The battle was a bloodbath, with Mileena relishing in the idea of killing two birds with one stone. But, surprising them, Reiko's strength proved to be too much, and thus they set aside the differences and combined their efforts. It took Kotal, Mileena, and Ermac to even stand the chance against them, but they weren't able to vanquish him before they were all knocked out by a corrupted Raiden. This is where he would transcend to godhood, as the Kamidogu daggers were plunged into his flesh as he embraced his new incredible power. He started to grow an insatiable hunger, a desire for flesh. Brushing it aside and believing it was part of the initiation process, Reiko would begin to feast upon the armies of Mileena and Kotal, eating and consuming every single soldier. Things started to spiral out of control as Reiko realized his body was beginning to tear itself apart, sending him into unimaginable pain. Angered, slamming Havoc into a wall, he demanded to know what was happening to him. And this was where the Chaos Cleric finally revealed his true intentions to Reiko. Reiko was merely a pawn, a tool, used as a vessel for something greater. Every voice that Reiko had heard was simply something that Havoc wanted him to hear. Reiko was shocked, but had been played, and now that his role was done, Havoc had no use for him, and crushed his head on the spot, creating Shinnok's amulet out of his remains. After all this, the Reiko Accords would be created, forming the alliance between Earthrealm and Outworld. And this is the last we see of Reiko, up until Mortal Kombat 1. As of now, the game is not released, but we do know that Reiko is in the game, and in fact, we've seen a cutscene where he's working with General Shao in an uprising against Mileena. There will inevitably be more that comes of Reiko, but for now, we can only speculate. I want to thank you all for watching this video, and the growth has been incredible. If you like this video, please check out the other characters in the Who Is series with the playlist on screen. If you enjoyed, drop a like and subscribe. I'll see you on the next video, and be good people.